Today we're talking about film festival.
That adds color to the story.
Roll sound. Cameras rolling.
Welcome to Butter City, the show all about films and all about Minnesota. Today we're talking with Jesse Roesler, an amazing, awesome, filmmaker, DP, director of photography. That's what DP means for folks that don't know what that means. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun to be here.
So let's start a little bit about how you even got into filmmaking. So I know you went to the University of Minnesota.
I did. It actually started before that, I think, too. I got my hands on a video camera probably in junior high, in high school, and would have friends over, and we just, have fun with it. Play in front of the camera, and we'd figure out how to hook up, the VHSs together to try and edit things together. And so from very, very early on, I just started tinkering. And then, I went to the journalism school here at the U, learned that TV news was not for me at all, because I wasn't into the fast facts. I wanted to explore character and context and the why. So I started making my own short documentaries after that, and then interned with some awesome filmmakers here in town, and kind of went from there.
So who were some of the filmmakers that you interned with here?
I worked with Matt Ealing.
Oh, great, yeah.
Who I think might be coming in at some point, too,
Yeah.
it sounded like, which is great. With Emily Goldberg, who's another fantastic documentarian, and then a little bit with Melody Gilbert as well.
So you went to the University of Minnesota, went to the journalism program.
Yep.
Decided that you're not going to make that kind of journalism documentary, and then you interned with 3 of the total journalistic documentary filmmakers in the state.
Yeah, well, because one of them came in to talk to my journalism class, but she was showing her documentaries, which weren't at all that journalistic style. So she had kind of departed, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of where I want to go, too. Doing those character studies and, profiles of artists, that kind of a thing.
So how did you start by, you were filming a little bit, obviously, home video style before you got into school, but how did you start to pick out subjects or pick topics that you wanted to make a film about?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm fascinated by people, and I think one thing that runs through all of my documentaries is I'm drawn to eccentric individuals, people who are, kind of living on the fringes of the dominant culture, but very authentically and passionately doing what they do quietly outside of the mainstream. And I think I'm drawn to them and why do they do what they do, and what makes them so, passionate about what they do. And it's getting harder and harder to live a truly authentic lifestyle today when there's so much pressure to kind of conform to what big culture is telling you to do. So I find those people super interesting, and a lot of times those people are within a larger social context or issue that I want to explore, but it comes down to a really personal story first for me that kind of draws me in.
One of the reasons I got really excited about trying to have you on the show was, I think especially at the time that you're coming into filmmaking, you're really agile about how you're discovering stories and how you're telling them. Is that, obviously you've had some traditional training in sort of the machine of making, stories. Is that a conscious thing in your mind about, being able to, I know you you can go out and you can make a documentary with a limited amount of gear. And I think that, we could just hand you a camera and you could go out and tell a great story. Is that something that's really conscious for you about your style, or is it just about taking what's available and getting it done?
I think it's a little both. I feel so fortunate to be coming along and doing this at the time that I am, that, the gear is changing. We can be extremely agile, like you're saying, and go out with a camera and make something beautiful. And that's one thing for me, having done both narrative and documentary work. I love documentary because it can just be 1 or 2 people, and you go out and you tell this story. You don't need a huge crew. But now that the gear has made it, you can be so portable that you can make documentary look cinematic, like a narrative film. And that's been the crux of me, especially in the last few years. I'm really trying to bridge that gap. And I think something we're going to show here today, I have no talking head in the entire short documentary, which I love because it feels more like cinema. It feels more like a narrative story, but it's a real story at the same time. But yeah, I think being able to be portable and agile is a huge part of making these sorts of films too.
Well, let's since you mentioned it.
Yeah, sure.
You want to set up the street cellist? Or?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this is just a short profile of a musician that used to play cello at the farmer's market. I found out he passed away
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, so very sorry to hear that. But they played this film at his memorial, so I think it was a nice thing for them to have. But beautiful soul. He played cello at the farmer's market and at other places in Minneapolis. And I actually found him at the farmer's market because I love to hang out there a lot. And I was shooting a narrative film there, and I was just casting some of the real people to do like short one-line pieces in that film. And so he played, his role in the film was like the cellist at the farmer's market. But the more I talked to him, I found out more about his story and how he's been playing there for so long, and how he actually gets up before dawn and rides his bike with the huge cello case and the chair. And I was just like, this is, such an amazing story he has. So we decided to take an extra, day and just spend it with him, and made this short film.
Well, let's take a look at this piece.
Sure.
My name is David McGee. I live in Minneapolis. I play the cello every chance I get, and for anyone who will want to listen. I wake up pretty early in the morning on the weekends, 5 o'clock, 4:30, and I put everything on my bicycle and I ride for a while, then I get on the bus for a while, then I get off and I ride for a while more. I know that sounds crazy.
He rides his bike, yeah. He packs that big old lug on the back and he hauls it right down there on that bike.
I started playing at the farmer's market maybe 10 years or more ago. The people are friendly here, they're kind here, so I have made a lot of friends in the course of doing this too.
I think that the music adds a lot to the atmosphere. I think that's a big part of why I like coming here.
The music is a great addition to the market. The customers really like it, and like I said, the kids they seem to huddle around, and
He does well over there. People know him over there, and he has his regular customers that come by and they take care of him.
I started playing music when I was 9 years old. I mean, you use the term fall in love with it. The sound of the cello, I fell in love with that early when I was 9 years old. Playing the cello definitely helps me meditate, It's rapturous, the sound of it, When you play it well, it's like being in rapture. There were times in my life where I subsisted totally by just my craft. So I used to live totally by this and had no job. I go outside to play. That doesn't mean I don't aspire to, play in concert halls. I do. There was one time I thought that I wasn't reaching people. But someone told me the other day that even if they're not looking at you as if they hear you, they do. And it's influencing them on a certain level. It's hard to describe, the feel. It's a feeling of freedom, if you're a musician, what could be better than going outside and doing your craft and people coming up and laying gifts at your feet? It's really quite an enchanted way to live. Thank you.
So that's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
And you shot that, and it was you and one other person, is that right?
Yeah, David Schnock, amazing cinematographer.
So did you see his reaction the first time he got to see the final piece?
I didn't actually. We didn't get together to look at it in person. I sent him a link. Everything's online now, so I'm like, here you go, check it out. And he wrote back, and I know he really enjoyed it. And it was actually on the Current TV's website as well. It was broadcast there for a little bit. So he got a lot of great comments. People would type in, their comments, and he got to read those. So I think he was able to connect with people like kind of nationally in a way that he hadn't before, which was really cool to see.
That's nice. Especially as an artist, to be able to have, video can reflect your work to you in a way that, you just don't see. I would imagine, especially a performing artist like that.
Right.
So one of the things that I think is great about your work is that, you have this ability you shoot beautifully. Your shots are great. But on top of that, you also have this ability to tell a story. So what is it that you look for? Is it just something that that speaks to you and where you are in your life, that there's something similar in the story that's happening? Or is it that there's a standard, like, you know, I look for this one thing, and then I know if that's there, it's the story I wanna tell. What is it that you look for when you're?
Man, it is such a combination of things, but I think it starts with passion. You know, he's on the street doing this. He's making a little bit of money from it, but he'll be there like no matter what, because he loves playing the cello and he loves sharing his music with people. So that kind of drive and that passion, I think, is what I see first. And then kind of beyond that, you know, what are those unique little things like, oh, and you put this all on your bike? You put your big cello case and your chair on your bike, and like he's swerving around, like, you know, before dawn, he's like riding the bus with this stuff, and like, so that adds color to the story. And then you start talking to him, and that voice, he has this voice that just kind of sticks with you, and the way he talks about his music just is kind of enchanting. So there are all these little things that kind of come together and make it, you know, more than you could even imagine as you're filming it. So like, and you may or may not have noticed, it's kind of timed to the length of the song. So it's like exactly that cello suite piece, that's the story. So there are little things like that you can kind of wrap it up and like make it its own little, you know, gift wrap story kind of in that way.
Well, it's nice, and your tempo with it was perfect for the song. You know, there's a part of me that was like, gosh, I wonder if like the GoPro was around at the time and you could have put it on the bike, but that would have totally changed the whole story. I mean, it's like you keep a real fluid feel. So I think it's a beautiful piece.
Thanks.
Another piece that I wanted to talk to you about, which just showed with the not the Twin Cities Film Festival, the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival, is the Man and Machine piece. Now, you've been working on this for a few years, right?
Yeah, we started in 2005 and, you know, finished it. So it was like a 5.5 year process of going back and forth to Belgium and spending time with these artists.
So tell us a little bit about what's the base of the story, and how did you even find this guy? Well,
okay, so the subtitle for the film will tell a little bit. It's called A Naked Robotic Love Story. So it's a story about a couple, but really, you know, the quick pitch is it's about a couple who's been tinkering and building musical creations for like 30 years, and they're electronic robotic instruments. And the kicker is they've assembled an entire orchestra of these robotic instruments, and kind of the kicker is the way they play the orchestra is by conducting in the nude using Doppler sonar radar. So, you know, totally out there, and you go like, wow, okay, so a robot orchestra, that's crazy. Oh, and they play it naked using sonar. That's even crazier.
Well, cool. Let's take a look at the trailer
Sure.
and then come back to it.
Okay.
I decided I would refuse to play any kind of already existing old music. I thought that it's ridiculous in the conservatories, because all these people come there to play existing music. Whereas if you go to the Academy of Fine Arts, you get to make your own painting. You don't repaint Van Gogh. No, you make your own painting. So I thought for music it would be completely similar. I want to do music seriously, but I want to make the music also.
We met at the university, and I said to my girlfriend, that's an interesting man, because he's so agitated all the time, talking to the students. And we called him, shall I tell that? Atom bomb, because he was so full of energy. With some people, you know that you have met each other before. Kind of very strong togetherness, something sometimes you recognize in the eyes.
So, wow, it's great. You got naked people.
Yeah.
You've got a couple that's like clearly in love with each other, and you've got like funky, weird music and ideas about art all in one. And you got travel, which is like perfect for you.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, I mean, like this. I mean, I've seen the film, and it's a great film, and it's kind of like this exploration of art and relationship, like you were just saying. And is there something that was like a takeaway for you as you think about, you know, how to keep that creativity? You know, so you have this chance where you're going. I mean, I imagine you were going in between other work that you're doing, and you're creative in your work, but you're creative for a client, and you're doing all these different types of storytelling that aren't necessarily just like what these guys are doing out there. So did that have, I mean, I would think that has some kind of impact on your work.
Yeah. Well, I'm building a robot orchestra in my basement right now. No, I thought about it. No, absolutely. I think about them so much, not in just my creative work, but in my daily living, in my daily life. And you see the full film, you get a sense of how playful everything they do is. They ride a tandem bike, they go tango dancing, twice a week. They do these things where they play as adults, and I love that. And I think that's something that, we should never forget, is to keep that sense of play. And we might even get to see a little bit more of that later on. And Monique does such a great job of talking about that, and how when you grow up, you get all these responsibilities, and you can kind of forget to play, if you don't have kids around. But keeping that sense of discovery and how you should always be looking at things differently in a new way. And I think perspective is so important. And I think I've learned a lot from them in terms of that, in terms of constantly kind of challenging yourself and making yourself look at something differently than you normally would. And what new can you find in something that seems, normal? How can you look at things differently?
So while you were traveling out there, and you went to journalism school, and you're talking about wanting to kind of move away from that and get into the storytelling piece, were there things that you changed midstream that you were like, out of this inspiration about just being creative? Did you start to shoot it differently? Did you start, I mean, maybe there wasn't, but I'm just thinking, because you had, 3 years, 5 years? 5 years?
Yeah.
Did you start to change your approach to it as you got to know them?
I think the only thing that really kind of evolved was how much it became about them and their relationship. Because initially it was like, wow, I'm going to make a crazy music doc, and like the music people are going to love it. But eventually we saw how they were working in it, and it became more about that love story. And I think it could find a larger audience in that way, because we all navigate, in our personal relationships. How are you together? How do you collaborate together? How are you creative together? How do you live together? And so it kind of opened up in that way. And the first 1 or 2 times we focused pretty much on the music and what they were doing musically, and we went, we taped the concerts that they did. But then, the third and fourth time we were back, we spent more time with them, out at tango and on the bike, and having tea and cooking dinner, and filming all of those things. That was really like the day-to-day living for them. So I think that's how it kind of evolved over time.
And it was you and one other person, or was it just you?
It was myself, and then I have a co-director, Jonathan Nowak, on this, and he came one of the 4 or 5 times. I had pretty much a different collaborator each time, because I remember the first time I went, I'd found their website, which is meticulously kept up, logosfoundation.org, and all of his blueprints for all of his machines are up there. He wants people to make them. None of his music is copywritten. He wants it all to be shared. Everything they do is up on their website, so I'd found that, and I just started emailing with him, and my roommate at the time, he picked up a camera once or twice, but I'm like, hey, do you want to go to Belgium with me by any chance for 2 weeks and spend some time with these crazy musicians? And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. And we happened to be going during the time that they have this thing called the Ghent Feast in Ghent, Belgium, which is like millions of people come there. It's like the biggest summer festival. So there's music all the time. There's street theater. So like the town was exploding while we were there. So we had like the best time ever, and they were doing special concerts for the feast. So the timing worked out perfectly, and we just had a blast. And then yeah, my wife came with me once, and then I had another collaborator from New York come another time. So a lot of people contributed over the course of the film.
Well, let's watch a clip here where it's like Monique is talking kind of just about that like creative process. And and what's interesting in this film too is I think Monique does a lot of describing more the bigger picture of why even doing this naked music.
Right.
So let's check this out.
Okay.
Even when we are 70 years old, the child should be still alive. So don't lose that playful element. That's why I like to do playful things on stage, or playful things with a sound box like a child. And for one reason or another, when we become old, we think we must be serious, and now I have a job, and I have a house, and I have children, I have my responsibility. I'm not a child anymore. But why not keep that child alive? That playfulness will help people to develop their own creativity and to rediscover if they have lost it in a way. When you perform these kind of things, people will never ask you if this is art. They will like, wow, a singing bicycle, and it's gone. And they have no time because it's something they did not expect. And they are like a child, wondering what's happening there, and it's away. The only thing I knew for sure when I came to Ghent is that when I would meet somebody, and he was just like the kind of person who looked like, wow. No, it was like right from the beginning because of his energy. I always said to my girlfriends, he's so interesting because he has all this energy. And then we looked to each other in the eyes. Bingo, that was it from that moment on.
Well, that's an adorable story, but it speaks to this really sweet idea that people stay creative and they stay kind of wondrous, like that childlike. Mm-hmm. What kind of reactions have you been getting at film festivals and audiences that see this? Has it unlocked any creativity for anybody? Has anybody been like, come up to you and been like, I'm just gonna paint that painting, or I'm just gonna, play that song, or yeah. I mean, have you been getting any feedback from folks about that piece, about just the wonder and creativity?
Yeah, I think people are definitely responding to that part, and especially that idea that art doesn't always have to be art with a capital A. It should be about exploring, and it should be, for you first and foremost. Like, you shouldn't be, just making things because you think it's what somebody wants. You should be doing it for yourself. And so that idea of just being creative in any way, whatever pleases you, you're connecting with something that a lot of people put aside. So I think people have definitely been responding to that part of the film, which was a huge, hope that I had going in making this, is that any way we can, help people to, like she says, rediscover your creativity in a way, if that's something you put aside. I think that's an amazing gift that someone can give to someone else. So I want to help them get that message out as much as possible. So.
You think this will be a film that you pull out for yourself every now and then, like, yes, I will keep making films, and this is exactly what I want to do, tell stories.
Yeah, absolutely I will, and I hope to keep going to visit them, even though I'm not filming with them anymore. Mm-hmm. I hope anytime I'm in Europe I can pop into the Logos Foundation Tetrahedron and catch a concert and just hang out with them and just see how they're doing, and they've been a great influence just for me in all my creativity, so I hope to keep in touch with them as well.
So I know you were saying that they have like the blueprints and stuff. Have people been starting to take those? Like, has nobody's come up to you yet for seeing the film and been like, yeah, I'm actually going to build one of those things and I'm going to play it naked and then like, you should make sequel to this.
Well, exactly. No, that would be awesome. It hasn't happened yet, but of course you have to be like kind of a master welder, aside. Like, these are not easy to make, so it would have to be a skilled person that decides like, all right, I'm going to do this. But they do also have a feature where you can send in a composition, like a score, like a MIDI file, and they will play it through the robotic orchestra and send you your recording. So you can also participate with the robotic orchestra that way. And actually just found out that kind of a popular electronic techno musician, Aphex Twin, is having him build a robot for Aphex Twin. Oh, wow. So that's kind of a cool little thing that they're doing right now. And I think we'll see that they get more and more notoriety as musicians catch on and, want to play with all their cool machines. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Are there other projects that you're working on right now that, are you just like, this is 5 years and we're in the film festival circuit now and that's where my attention is? Yeah,
no, it is. And you don't realize, until you've done it, how much work just the whole film festival thing is. Like, submitting and going and just being present and okay, where's it playing now, and building a website for your film, and like there are all these things now. And since the distribution model has changed so much for independent filmmakers, there's so much you need to keep on top of. So I'm absolutely doing that. But of course, I have a couple of new projects that are in the pre-production stage. Another documentary, hopefully, will be feature length, and then I'm also writing a screenplay. So I haven't cracked the feature length film yet, but that's kind of next on my list to do.
So if for folks that want to like keep up with, they either want to see where Man and Machine is playing, or they want to see some of your other work, or they want to see what you're developing, how do folks find you?
Pretty much all of the films that I've created are online at deliciousfilmworks.com. So that's a great place to go. Also, my personal site is just my name, jesseroesler.com. So I keep everything up there. So yeah, I think everything stays pretty current, so people can find out more there.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely want to stay in touch and see where you go, because I think that you do this great job of not only do you find great stories, but you tell them well and you film them well, and you have this ability to just do it on the, like I said, I mean, I think you can work with full crews and do that whole thing, but you also you're just determined. You'll get it done, and you have the skills to do it. So thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for watching Butter City. We're finishing up this show, but we got a lot more to come. So please come check us out. Our website, www.buttercity.com. Check us out on Facebook, tweet. We're all about Minnesota, and we're all about filmmaking. Take care.